Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Bag Collection Podcast. My guest today is Alex MacNicoll, and you might know him from a couple projects, especially The Society, which, might I add personally, should have had more than one season. I feel like everybody feels the same that watched that show. It was so good. But I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. It's a little bit longer, but there were just a lot of things I could not cut out of this episode. I really enjoyed sitting down and chatting with him. So as always, like, comment, and share, and thank you for coming on with me, Alex.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello? Hey, Bryn.
How are you?
How are you? I'm good. I'm just waking up. How are you?
I'm doing good. The picture. Love it.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, it was just your face. You were just like,
Yeah. There we go. There it is.
I was like, oh, yeah. Is it? So that's not a virtual background, is it?
No, I love going to Comic-Cons. This is definitely one of my things that I love doing. So these are all the people
Awesome.
I pretty much met. Yeah.
Cool. Is
Yeah.
that all in different Comic-Cons or the same Comic-Con?
Different ones. So I went to Wizard World, I've went to Walker Stalker, I've went to Horror Hound. I could list a couple more, but there's a
Are
lot of
those,
good ones out there.
is
Yeah.
that in California or is that like New York or something? Or
So I went to New Jersey, I went to Kentucky, I've
oh,
went.
like you go to all of them?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, I want to do one of those one day. I want to be on like either a horror or like a sci-fi show or something to do conventions. Yeah, they're really fun.
Yeah. They're really fun to go to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because of course I'm choosing this career, so it's cool to
Yeah.
be able to connect with people that are doing the same thing that I want to do.
Yeah, you got to go to them and then you got to be a part of it too, where people are like coming to to bringing you your little action figure and stuff and being like, "Can you
Right.
take a picture of this?" Yeah,
Right.
that's cool. Yeah. Well, cool. Are you East Coast based then? Is because I heard you say New Jersey and Kentucky and all these things, and yeah,
Yeah, so
got
I
yeah,
grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I'm back home right
nice.
now.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, and I went to school in New York. It was a 2-year program, so that went by really fast.
Yeah,
And
it's
then, of
crazy how.
course, coronavirus hit, so I finished my classes online, which actually wasn't bad at all. But of
Hmm.
course, I went through those moments of like anger and sadness and then acceptance of everything, of course. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You and everybody else. Yeah, that's the
exactly.
one thing. It's not. Yeah, that's what's kind of like great about this whole thing is like it's like the great equalizer in a way for like all the jobs and careers and stuff. I feel like or like students because my local high school is having their graduation like a virtual one right now, and a lot of them are upset I think about it, but it's funny because it's like everybody's kind of going through it. You know what I mean? It's like the majority of
Exactly.
it. So it's one of those things where it's like fuck and like damn it and like why me? Why is this happening to me? But then it's like it's happening to so many people. So it's kind of like in a way it's there's an odd sense of like a larger community in that. It's like it's like even though it sucks, it's like but everybody's going through it. So yeah. So
Exactly.
yeah. Well, congrats on finishing your program. At least
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
crazy how time flies though. It's nuts. Everybody always says that, and then I feel like I didn't realize it until like I realized it. Until I was like, holy shit, like time does
Right.
fly by. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. So where do you
Yeah.
plan on going? Do you plan on going to like New York or Philly or Chicago or Atlanta or Los Angeles or Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh's got a
Um,
great burgeoning little industry too.
yeah. For right now, I do plan to stay in Pittsburgh, but because everything's up in the air mainly, I've never
Oh yeah.
actually traveled to LA. So
Oh.
I was supposed to go this summer, and of course they're going on like a longer lockdown, and not everything's going to be really open. So when I go out to
Yeah.
California, like I want to get the full experience,
Right.
of course. So I'm gonna have to push my trip back to 2021.
Oh,
But I think I might try and apply for work around Pittsburgh, New York, possibly even Georgia, because Georgia's for the last, I would say, 10 years, they've gotten a lot of work down there.
yeah,
So,
it's huge. Yeah,
mhm,
yeah. Atlanta and New Orleans too is a big one.
right.
Um, yeah, well, especially for TV film too. And is that like what you're trying to do? Is the TV film thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They're definitely huge markets. I know, like I would say at least half of my friends out, even in like Los Angeles and New York, they also like have agents in Atlanta or New Orleans, and they get pitched for stuff down there. And they have like a family member that lives down there, that type of deal, or maybe they even have like like their own address. I know one guy, my buddy Tom, who he was in LA for years, and then he was getting a little work, he was finding his way, and then but it was never enough to kind of like satisfy him and to kind of be like a full-time thing. And then so yeah, so he just was like, I'm gonna try Atlanta, and he moved down to Atlanta, and sure enough, like he was living down there and he was getting enough work where it was like he got more work in I think like a year basically down in Atlanta than when he had in Los Angeles for like 5 or 10 years. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
um it's just a different market. It's just they have so much down there, just kind of like they have a ton of stuff in LA as well, but like I would say LA probably has the most, but Atlanta is definitely like probably number two as far as TV film. They just have so many things down there, and then it's great because they're hiring all these like local hires down there for recurring roles on TV shows and supporting roles in movies, which is great. So yeah, so it's all about just finding the market, and trying to. That's the thing, that it's like it's such a hard thing to teach, for teachers and acting schools or conservatories. It's like there's you can only teach so much about like the acting part, but the business is a whole nother side of it. It's like a
Right.
whole. Yeah, and you really just the best way to learn is just by experience, is like kind of figuring it out, hitting the ground running, and getting on all those websites, and on those casting websites and those databases, and trying to submit for stuff. I think, like obviously once there's like efficient testing in place and all these things, then it'll kind of really open up and kind of get back to quasi normal. But for now, it's like, who knows? They're all testing it out. I think I heard something like, you're talking about horror movies before. Blumhouse, I think, is filming a movie right now, or at least in a couple weeks. I think they're set to start, and they're going to film on the Universal lot. And I think they're only going to use like one of the sound stages. And I think the whole entire crew and the cast are all staying at the same hotel. And
Right.
they're
Yeah.
just trying to. And it's like an experiment basically. They're going to see how it goes, um, and that's going to be huge because if that goes well and nobody gets sick and infected and everything with all that, then I think that that's probably going to be like a little model for a lot of smaller budget or smaller sized films and crews, and they're probably just going to start cranking it out. But other than that, I think it's going to be a little while. But we'll see,
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, but Pittsburgh, I like, I remember a couple years ago they were doing like Batman out there, and
Mhm.
um yeah, and I think they had another show out there too. Oh, there's a rabbit. There's a little rabbit. Hold on, wait a sec. Let's see if I put that. I don't know if you can see. There's a rabbit. He ran into the little. There's like a little bush area back over there to the left of the dumpster. But
Okay.
little tiny. He just like popped out from under the dumpster. I was like, what the hell?
Aw.
Yeah. There you go. But that's it. That's my dumpster, by the way. If you need a dumpster, you can borrow it. Um, but yeah, that's exciting. You're at this like. Yeah, I remember when I just was finishing up school. Like it was a mix for me. I was a little burnt out as well, like just from all the work, because it was just a lot crammed into like a short amount of time, so to speak. And so I remember I just there was like I kind of like took a little bit of time off, just to kind of recollect my thoughts and to get that kind of that burning excitement and that fire going. And then once I had that, then I was like, all right, is it New York? Is it LA? Those were kind of the two that I wanted to pick out of all the places. And but it's exciting because you can go anywhere right now. You're like you're deciding which market you want to go to. you have all these tools at your ready, you know, like with as far as like technology goes, like we were just starting to get like, you know, I think that it was like an iPhone 5 or something, or iPhone 6 when I was, you know, graduating. So it was like self tapes, you know, we're starting to get really interesting because it's like you can just shoot it on your phone, and now you can shoot it on your phone. You can edit a whole freaking movie on your phone. You can do everything. So
Right.
yeah, it's a good time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when
So
those iPhones came out, I was in middle school.
yeah,
That's so
I know.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy because when I was in middle school, we had like these like Nokia flip. There's like kind of a half flip phone, half not flip phone, but all you
It
could
was
do
like
was like,
a sidekick.
yeah, it
Um,
was no, it was worse than that. It was like you couldn't you couldn't text on them. You couldn't text on it. It was just literally it was like a phone you could like dial a couple numbers, and I remember I basically just had it just so I could call my mom or my dad or something because you know it's freaking middle school. It was, you know, but
right.
and it's so funny because you know you said time flies, and it's like I'm not, I don't think I'm that old. You know what I mean? I'm like I'm 30, but like I'm not like crazy old. And
You're
like it's
30?
funny. Yeah, yeah, and it's funny
There's
because
no
I'm like,
way.
yeah,
No
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah, and but it's funny because I'm talking to you. I'm like yeah, back when I was in middle school, and that's like, you know, that's how people I picture would talk, like, you know, in their 50s. But it's true. It's crazy how fast technology just evolves, and just time just flies, and things just, yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, it's gonna be nuts in the next 5-10 years if we're all
Yeah.
still around.
Yeah.
Which yeah,
No, I agree
I'm
with
sure we
you.
all will be. Yeah. But yeah, what's the scene like in Pittsburgh? Is there any talk about the industry over there right now, like what they're doing, when they're gonna open up?
Well, as of right now, like I live like about 20-30 minutes outside of the city. I live in like this little small town where everybody knows everybody.
Oh,
And
nice.
well, and my family, when my uncles and my father like were in high school, they wrestled. So like everybody knows who my family is around here. And
Yeah,
yeah, so we're very popular as far as like the wrestling
yeah, yeah,
unit here.
yeah. Nice.
But as far as I mean, like we're opening up, we're going into the green phase. So of course it's still like social distancing and such, and but like everything will open back up. As
So
far as
no
the
wrestling.
industry, well, no, yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't even know if the schools are going to open back up because a lot
Yeah,
of the colleges around, like even here or just in general, like a
yeah,
lot of them are debating on not even coming back and just doing online.
yeah.
So, I don't know if the high school or like just the school district that I went to is going to open back up or if they're going to just
Mm,
do online. Because my cousins, they were graduating high school this year, and
yeah.
they had like assignments to do, but they didn't have like classes.
Mhm.
So it was like participation work. Like they were just giving them extra work basically.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I'm not sure, but as far as the industry, I haven't heard anything. I keep hearing
Mhm.
like within the next month, a lot of stuff's going to start filming again, but it's just the fact of, is it going to be safe? Do we have everything we need to make sure everyone does stay safe?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Is there like a specific like casting office in Pittsburgh, or like a website for just for Pittsburgh, like a database?
The only ones that I'm aware of are, well, there is one that I worked with over the summer. It's Nancy Mosser Casting, but they
Oh,
do a
nice.
lot more of extras casting and commercial casting.
I see. Yeah.
Um, I never say this right, but I think it's like Doherty. I think that's what it's called.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm pretty sure they have an office here and in Ohio, but
Hmm.
those are the only two I'm aware of as far as like
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know in like in all the, you know, those like markets where they're big cities, but they're small markets, so to speak. Not small, but in relative terms. But like Austin, Texas is the same way. There's like Rock Allen down there, and you know, there's a casting, like, you know, in Dallas there's like, you know, a couple specific, you know, casting offices. same thing with like Atlanta and like and New Orleans and stuff. There's like a handful, you know, of like specific, you know, like those are the ones that are like kind of supply the industry with all the, you know, with all the talent, so to speak. You know, those are like the ones to focus on. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've never been to Pittsburgh. I've only seen photos on the internet and videos on the on like this food channel when they go to like get the sandwiches at like Lou Pimenti Brothers or something.
Manny Brothers. Oh, those
Pimenti
sandwiches are
Brothers.
so good.
Yeah, yeah. And then I also bought a candle one time for a friend who lives in Pittsburgh or who's from Pittsburgh, because I but you know about the Society, the show on Netflix? Do you
Yes,
know about
loved
okay, so
it.
did you watch it? Okay,
Yes, loved
I'm
it.
glad you enjoyed it, but like one of the episodes we had to do this thing where we were like doing a raid in a house. We were like, you know, kicking down a door and like, you know, doing all that stuff. And I
Mhm.
had this like bat, and inside of it was a foam bat because it was a prop, but inside of the foam it was like there was like metal, so like it had a little bit of weight to it, and
Mhm.
like thin metal, but metal nonetheless. And you know, we're running through, and one of the ads, you know, like we were like everybody was friends and we were all friendly and everything, so one of the ads is off camera, and so like I ran off camera, and then as a joke I went to like pretend to hit her in the knee with like my bat as a joke, and I kind of like tapped her like a little bit harder than I had, because I was like all jacked up on the adrenaline, like, yeah, it's fucking right, and I kind of smacked her knee, and like it was just a joke, and it was totally out of like just play, but like she goes like, oh fuck, like loud, and while we're still rolling, and I was like, oh Jesus. I was like, well, she's really selling this. Like, haha, this is like, you know, fun. And then like I look over and she like kind of like lifts her head up and she's like crying. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, what the fuck happened? And she's like, I had surgery on that knee, you asshole. And I was like, oh fuck. And I didn't realize, but she had like she was like an athlete in college and had surgery on that knee, and I like, you know, I smacked it with this little like foam slash kind of stiff bat. But anyway, where I'm going with this is that so like I apologize and everything, and she's from Pittsburgh, and so I found this candle company that does like scents of like the city that you want to send to. So Pittsburgh was like steel stacks and pierogies and it was something else, but it was like this, you know, this candle that smelled like pierogies and steel basically. um and that's all I know about Pittsburgh, long story short. That's long story somewhat short. Yeah, yeah. So but
That's a
yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. Good old Pittsburgh. The
Yeah,
bird.
it's very small. Well, I mean, compared to other cities, I think we only have
Yeah.
like max of like 400,000 in the city. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we're a pretty small city, but for the most part, it has a lot of culture. It's very uh pleasing, like scenery wise, and like there's
Yeah.
like certain spots you can go to that you can actually like see the entire city, and it's nice.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's got some bridges, right?
yeah, it has a
There's
lot of
some water
bridges.
on a bridge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It looks beautiful. Yeah.
It is. It's very it's pretty peaceful for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, like unless the Steelers are playing the Patriots or something.
Yeah, Steeler
No,
fans
I
are
don't know.
hardcore.
Sports ball. Yeah. Yeah, I grew up with there's a family here in my hometown where their dad had a Steelers tattoo on his arm. He was hardcore. Yeah, those Steelers fans are
Yeah,
they don't mess around. Yeah.
no, they. Mm-mm. There, and it's funny because a lot of the places where I've traveled for like Comic Con, they have Steeler bars. It's so bizarre.
Uh-huh.
So like they're
Yeah.
everywhere, and you just never
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
it till you see stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah. That's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, like yeah, there's a lot of great I feel like there's a few teams that are like that, like the Raiders, you know, it's like there's a very specific like cult following, you know, the Steelers are one too.
Right.
There's some other ones too, but yeah, but it's really cool. There's like so much history there with that team, and yeah, and the fans are just, you know, diehard fans. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Well, yeah. So what do you want to talk about? What do you want? Should we, you know? I know we're podcasting, but it's like, you know, we're just kind of
Yeah.
shooting the shit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Anything specific?
well, I figured, well, you did bring up the society. So are you okay with talking about that a little bit?
No, absolutely not. No, no, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
how did how did the audition come about? How did the audition go? Like, what was it like?
Yeah. So the basically this particular one was I was actually working on a film, and I was over in Ukraine at the time. I was like in Europe, and the audition was, like from my agent via like a self tape. So basically, like the casting, reaches out to the agency and says, here's a breakdown of, here are all the roles that we're looking for, and then the agency like submits their clients that they think would fit certain roles, and then the casting comes back and says, okay, we want to see XYZ, we want to see those people for that role or for this role. And then so I got the self tape, so I just had to put myself on tape. And then at the time I had like a like kind of a as full of a beard as I could grow at the time. But it was funny because I had this beard, and I couldn't shave it because we're filming this movie. And but basically I had to play a high schooler, so I kind of just was like, well, this is gonna be weird. And so I sent in a tape of me, and I just explained in my intro. I was kind of like, hey, like, I'm sorry about the beard, blah blah blah, this and that, and hope you enjoy this and that. And then and then you just you put myself on tape, me and my friend Rocky, who was one of the guys I was working with on the film over there. And and then you send it off, and I don't know, you just kind of wait to hear back, and you kind of live your life. And then, fortunately, they liked the tape, and they ended up casting me on it. But if I was in America at the time, or if I was in Los Angeles or something, or New York, I probably would have gone in person, to audition, obviously, in front of the casting. But what was cool about it too was that the casting office that was, the casting director that was in, like, running the project, she does like Fear the Walking Dead and like all these other things, speaking of Comic-Con and all those. But and so it was great because I've been in her office like many times. It's one of those things where it was a reminder to me, like, to not get discouraged, like, whenever I don't get a role, or whenever I don't, book something, because it's like, just because you didn't book that particular role doesn't mean that the casting's not like paying attention, and not like checking you out and being like, oh wow, like this person, like maybe not for this role, but they keep you in mind, for other things.
Right.
And that was big for me to learn early on, because I would go to these auditions and I wouldn't get called back, or I wouldn't get a book. And like there were times when I'd be really discouraged, and then I'd get another audition from whatever casting office that I had already been in for many times, not this one in particular. But and I would be like, I don't even, why am I even going? It's a waste of time. Every time I go there, I never get a call back, I never get this, I never get that. And it's like the fact that they're bringing you back in, or the fact that they're bringing me back in, was like, it's like, no, 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 it's, yeah, I should have the opposite thinking. I should be like, oh look, they're looking out for me. They're like, they are interested in me. It's just, maybe they just, every time it's somebody else just kind of fits whatever role a little bit more. So that was the case with this one. It was like I had auditioned for Fear the Walking Dead, like probably like 4 times or something like that, like for different roles. And then and I didn't get any of it. And a couple of them I was like, I'm so like I'm this guy. And for instance, one of them, at least one of them, probably a couple of them, went to local hires in Atlanta, because I was in LA at the time. And then I kind of like, every now and then I'll follow up with projects where I was like, I really wish I had got that role. And like this one was one in particular, in Fear the Walking Dead. And I looked at who got it, and sure enough, the kid was like a local Atlanta guy. So it's like, hats off to him. It's like that's great for him, and I'm happy for him. But like, so we were talking about what markets to choose. So sometimes it's like, I know LA is the big one, but Atlanta has just as much work, if not sometimes more. You know what I mean? For some, like, given the circumstances, or the TV shows too. Like that's another thing too, is like, if you have specific projects in mind that you're like, I want to be on this show, I need to be on this show, like this show is like I would be perfect for this show. Then find out where they film, find out, who's the casting director, find out all that stuff. Because sometimes like you can go to these markets where these TV shows film. Like for instance, a lot of stuff's in Vancouver. Vancouver is another one. Like I mean, it's obviously you'd have to become a Canadian citizen and all that stuff. But it's honestly like these things are, sometimes it's worth it just to live in whatever market or city that show casts out of. And a lot of them do cast out of LA as well, especially for, the bigger roles most of the time, but there's still heavy recurring roles and guest star roles that sometimes you have a better shot if you're actually living in that city where they cast, or in that market. But yeah, so going back to the Fear the Walking Dead, that casting office, I had been in for them like 4 times just for that show. I've been in them for a couple other times for like movies and for another TV show. um so I had been in a handful of times, and I had never booked a role with them. So it was nice that they kind of kept me in mind and would keep bringing me in or auditioning me, and then finally this one ended up working out. So you know but yeah, but so I just say that just like to encourage you and anybody else who ends up listening to, it's a good sign if you're, even though you're not if even if I'm not booking the role every time I go in for the room, but if I'm going back, if they keep going, bringing me into audition, that's a good sign. you know
Right.
it's
Yeah.
not a waste of time. Yeah, no, there's never, no audition is really a waste of time, except for the ones that are. There's every now and then you'll get a casting director who's just like an asshole, and it's like, and that happens, and you know what I mean. But it's very
Right.
rare. It's very rare. There's, I would say 90%, 95% of the time, casting is always just, they're looking out and they're paying attention, and just because they didn't book you on something doesn't mean that they're not thinking about you, or they think about you for other projects while you're auditioning for a certain project.
Right.
A lot of times that happens all the time. So yeah, so that's how that happened for me, that auditioning process. But I know other people on the cast, for instance, like, um, and also what probably would have happened to me too if I was in America at the time, like, a lot of the football guys, especially, a lot of those roles were kind of slightly interchangeable. So what casting would do is they would audition everybody for like, for one of the roles, and then like based on that, then they'd bring the people in that they auditioned for that role, and then they'd audition them for the other football guy, and then the other football guy and the other football guy. You know what I mean? It was kind of like one of those things. And I think, and that happens a lot when there's like when there's a lot of like similar roles, especially like sports movies, like, not like the Society, but like other sports movies. I know every time I audition for a sport movie, it's like I audition for one of the guys on the team, and then I end up auditioning for another guy on the team and another guy on the team, and then I talk to people who are in the movie, and it's like, oh yeah, we auditioned for this role, and then we auditioned for that role. And, you know what I mean? It's like you kind of audition for all the guys on the team, in a way, a lot of the time. So yeah,
Yeah.
sports ball. Back to sports ball. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, so that was the audition process for that, and then I know also in Boston too, where they filmed, they had local auditions there as well. So they were auditioning people for a couple of the roles, like this like a couple of the roles on the football team as well, and then all like a lot of the guest star roles, so to speak, like a lot of those like one episode roles, or a couple one off or two offs and stuff. They were all like Boston people as well. That was all like New England casting. Um, so yeah, so that was the casting process for them, and that was, and it's interesting because that was out of the office of Boston Casting, with Lisa Lobel as the casting director there. So she's kind of like, I think you're saying that there's like somebody who does Ohio and Pittsburgh, like the casting, like that's like her. She's like a Boston, New England casting director, and so like when a show films in Boston, they'll usually send her all the supporting roles, and she'll cast those out of Boston and New England. Um, yeah, and then everybody else kind of came from LA for the most part, and I think a couple people got cast out of New York. Actually, no, more than a couple. There's a few. There's like a handful of people that got cast out of New York, like Jack Mulhern and Spencer House,
Mhm.
um, and Olivia Nickenen, uh, and I don't know if Jacques was in LA at the time. I think Jacques was in LA at the time, but yeah, so yeah, it's cool. It's like really fun and cool to see how like, it's not just LA. For instance, like we had people cast from LA, we had people cast from New York, cast from Boston, and then I was self tape. But you know what I mean. But yeah, it's just a whole new ball game nowadays. With like self
right.
taping and just with how connected everything is. Yeah, it's really exciting. So yeah, potentially, yeah, you can kind of do this from anywhere almost nowadays. I mean, obviously, it's kind of better to be in the room. There's pros and cons, you know. I think there's like it's great to be in the room because then you can get hands-on direction, you know, while you're auditioning. But also sometimes it's better to self-tape because then you can do as many takes as you want and you can pick which take you're sending in and all that stuff. And
Exactly.
yeah, but then sometimes I feel like that can be a con though too because I get so crazy hypercritical and wrapped up in like, oh no, oh shit, this one I did this little thing. I wish I could take this take and combine it with this other take. And at
Right.
the end of the day, it's like at the end of the day, this is all just based on my perspective and my like my analyzing, you know, the take, right? And casting might get it, and they might, you know, think that that take that I thought was shit is actually the better take. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like we don't know. You know, like it's like
Mhm.
you kind of just gotta, you know, do your best. You know, give it your shot, and then just kind of send it in because it's never gonna be finished. It's never a final product. You know what I mean? Like it could always be a little different. It could always be this. It could always be that. So at the end of the day, you know, I think you just want to show your best self or your best version of that role in that audition, and then just send it in. You know, and just like you know, boom, wash your
Right.
hands, and you know, for me,
Keep
it's
going.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, but it is a good luxury to have to be able to do as many takes as you want and set it all up as however you want. So that is the good thing about self tapes. But yeah, yeah. Are
Yeah,
you on
because
Actors Access yet?
yeah, so I did sign up for Actors Access and I'm going to be signing up for
Good.
Backstage. What's
Okay.
really nice is the president of my school, he was able to give us like a free year of Actors Access and Backstage. Um
Awesome. Yeah.
because we didn't like we were supposed to get something called final reel and then have graduation, but of
I
course
see.
because of everything we can't do those things.
Right.
And so I think in like doing that in return, and there's other stuff that they're doing, I think it's really great because you know I mean at least they're still trying, especially under all
Yeah.
these circumstances. So
Yeah. That's
it
awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
happy
I mean
about it because it
that
can get
yeah, that's
expensive.
oh, it does get expensive. I was just gonna say, like, because a lot of those websites, especially Actors Access, I don't know about Backstage, but you have to pay extra to put your demo reel up, or to put more headshots up, or you know, to add things onto your profile. So yeah, so if you have a free membership, so to speak, for a year, then take that time now to use your money to put up, you know, more like, you know, more headshots or more or put up a demo reel with work that you're proud of if you have it. And if not, then go out and film something, you know, and
Right.
put it on. Yeah, and just make sure it's good, you know what I mean? It's like I don't
Of
know. I know
course.
everything's subjective, but you know what I mean? But it's like but you want it to be you want to show your best stuff, you know, you want to put your best foot forward. So yeah, so that's just yeah, but it's great. So it's like you know you're like that. That's what I would recommend. I would say save your money and take whatever money you know, and now you have an opportunity to kind of to add to your profile for the cost of what it would just cost just to maybe get a profile in the first place, and you already have that. Like Showfax is like that used to be the thing on Actors Access. It was that's how you get all the breakdowns. Showfax, you know, show and then FAX. I think it was like $68 a year added on to the membership,
Mhm.
but then you get access to like to all of the sides for all the auditions, basically for all the projects that they post on there.
Nice.
So yeah, so it was always like yeah, it's like tough like looking at all the costs and being like $100, like $125, like what the you know. But then
Right.
if you break it down, it's like it really comes out to like oh, you know, this is only like, you know, $10 a month, or this is like $8 a month if I really break it down, or however much, you know, and that's when it's kind of like, you know, yeah, like that's the stuff that they don't really teach you in school, but it's like, but you start learning about the business side of it and like, you know, how it's best to budget your money and to invest your money into to what you need at that time, you know. So maybe it's like, oh, I need headshots, so I need to, you know, go out and find a photographer that does good work and that I can afford, then I can post those pictures on the website, and then, oh, it costs an extra $25 to post one more photo on this website. And it's like the costs start adding up, and like, so say, at the end of the day, you might actually like have a bill that's like $3,000 after you like, for the memberships online, for the headshots, for the extra bonus features, for all these whatever ends up things. But then you have to spread that out over the course of a year. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, that sounds like a lot of money, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like actually it's probably worth it to invest right now, because then I'm gonna have it for, and then take advantage of what you are signed up for. Take advantage of these memberships. I know people too that sometimes they'll get a membership but then they don't never use it, and it's like,
Right.
it's like, yeah, use it. So if you're paying for it, get on that thing every morning, check the breakdowns, like find those roles that it's like, oh wow, okay, I could fit this role. Okay, wow, great. I would love to do this. Oh wow, they're looking for maybe somebody else that's not really me, but like I feel like really strongly to this role. I'm gonna submit for it, and then you can write in like the notes section, why you feel like you could fit that role, but don't write it as you, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I'm submitting for a role that even though I don't think, like say they're looking for somebody else that's not really like my type, but I really want to do it. I'm not gonna like write in the notes like, oh, I would love to do this role, and like I've always had an affinity to be, a scientist, and like all these things, and like I would love to be this. You have to write it as if you're your agent, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's like where you just it's straight to the point, and you're pitching you, but not pitching you in the sense of like that it is you talking, but that it's a third person talking. You know what I mean? So it's like, just for like for me, like it was just like, say it was like a cowboy thing, but and I wanted to be like, I want to submit for a western or something. I'd be like, horseback riding experience, like Western saddle and English saddle, proficient, or you know what I mean, like stuff like that, like specific to the role, specific to the project, and not coming from like oh, like this is a dream role, like I've always wanted to do this, you know what I mean? Like it's just
Right.
not that you would do that, but I'm just trying to give an example, like
Right.
because then when they get their submission, then they look at it and they see, somebody who's professional and who's committed, and who's qualified, for the job. So then they might be like, oh, actually, yeah, we were thinking, maybe this was for this person, but like actually this person like looks really interesting. Let's bring them in, you know.
Right.
So yeah. So I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's a shit show. It's a whole, it's a
Yeah.
wild world out there on the internet. So good luck and Godspeed.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
like they want to get to know you, but like when it comes to stuff like that, they also want to know what you're capable of. They would rather know what
Yeah.
you're capable of and then see
Hmm.
you like in
Right.
person, like while you're doing your tape over like
Hmm.
reading it. So,
Exactly. Yeah, because
mhm,
they're looking at like 500 people. Like, it's not like they have that much time to like sit down and have like a first date with every single person. You know what I mean?
right,
So yeah, so you just want to be to the point and specific and clear, and honest, like to the point where it's like, you don't want to lie about your experience, but you also don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by not getting your foot in the door. You know what I mean? It's like if they're looking for, I don't know, if they're looking for somebody that can shoot a gun, and like maybe it's worth it to go out and to learn how to shoot a gun. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, well, maybe a gun's like not a great example because it's like a safety thing. But if it is also horseback riding, if it's something that you can go out and you can learn real quick, and at least you can get some quick experience on it. If you have a farm around you, or if you have a stable somewhere nearby, and you can submit for a role, and before that they're gonna bring you back, but just like it's just on your mind, like, oh, I submitted for that. I should go learn how to ride real quick. And not that you can learn how to ride in one day, but it's better to get any kind of experience in the right direction. And that's why it's kind of better to be prepared rather than to kind of do it afterwards. So like, especially like, I mean, right now it's tough, obviously, with like a lot of places aren't open. but when you can, whenever, like for me at least, it's like whenever I have downtime, whenever I'm not working on a project or whatever, I'm like not auditioning at the moment, like I'm like, well, what can I kind of like, what's something that I want to learn that I haven't learned already, and that will benefit my career in a way, you know. A lot of times it's like, oh, what can I do that I want to do just for fun, and that's one thing. But if it's something that it will be fun and it'll be great for your career, it's like, oh, great, like learning how to ride a horse, learning about firearms and firearm safety, learning stage combat, taking an improv class, you know, learning how to play piano or guitar or any instrument, harp, whatever, you know what I mean? Like any of these things that you can throw on your resume. It's, I don't want to say bizarre, like how it all works, but it's one of those things where I'm sure you've experienced in your life, like synchronicity. It's like whatever we kind of put out and like are thinking about and like we're, you know, passionate or excited about, it ends up like popping up in our life, you know what I mean? And it's
Right.
like you know how you're saying you notice all these Pittsburgh bars whenever you go to these Comic Cons, and it's like
Right.
that's not a coincidence. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, of course there maybe that's like that bar is there and everything, and like that's great, but like other people aren't noticing those, you know, those bars. You know what I mean? Like unless they're
Right.
passionate about Pittsburgh, and then like our awareness starts going off, and we start seeing these things, and they kind of come into our experience, right? It's like not that
Mhm.
they weren't there, and not that they wouldn't be there, but it's like so same thing with your with your skills, like whatever you're focusing on or learning somehow, some way. I mean, I don't know. I can't explain it, but they just pop up in your life. You know, like all of a sudden, it's like you're learning how to play the harp, and like you see a pop up audition on your thing for like a harp. You know, a harp. Like the role is like, you know, this like dramatic role about this woman who's, you know, surviving PTSD or some shit, but she happens to be a harp player, something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's like one
Right.
of those like, yeah, it just happens. So it's really, I don't know. Maybe it has to do with like that kind of kinetic energy of like, you know, kind of just like, you know, just getting the ball rolling, you know. And then it's like once you're getting that ball rolling, like I'm a huge believer that like everything is getting created around us. Like I'm, you know, it's like I'm, whatever I'm creating in my own personal life is one thing, but like you're creating stuff in your life, you know what I mean? Like all of your friends are creating stuff in their life, my friends are creating stuff in their life, all these people around us, every single person is creating their own stuff. Like they're like kind of like coming up with these ideas, and then the world or the universe and stuff is also creating with us, right? Like co-creating, and like each person and each thing, right? And so
Right.
the mixture of all that is what ends up being, you know, like what ends up like coming into my awareness and my experience. And so yeah, so it's like anytime you can kind of get that kinetic movement that you can kind of just like start learning something or start doing something, it's so interesting how it works. It's almost like you become like this magnet, and like these opportunities or these things just kind of find you, and they just come into your experience. It's really cool and it's really exciting, and that's why I'm so hopeful overall, because I'm always like, whenever there's a problem, I'm always like, well, we can all kind of fix this, we can all solve this if we all just put our awareness to it and kind of like figure out how to go about it, and just and like I think everything's kind of working with us, you know, overall.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe I'm naive. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, you know, but I don't know. Yeah, but I'm telling you, like I see it all the time. You'll see. I'm sure you already see it all the time, but like you'll start seeing it, especially with this line of work, because it's all about creating. You know, it's all like what we do is like storytelling and creating and creating and creating and creating and creating, and there's just so much creation happening like every single second around us. So
Right.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know what we're talking about. I think we went off the deep end.
It's
It was
okay. Yeah,
aliens.
no,
It was
that's
aliens, Brit. No.
if that makes it good, because that means we're
Yeah.
just too invested in a conversation.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. 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 Or like anything, like learn how to ride a motorcycle. You know, like learn whatever skills you want to learn, or you would like. It's that's what's so cool is like you can learn anything, and that can benefit your career and your resume, and you can bring that to the table. I know people too that like, I don't even know if it was in the original script, but like I mean, it happens all the time. But specifically for the society, like Olivia DeJong is like a great piano player, and so, you know, so she has that on her resume and all these things, and like I don't even know if that was necessarily part of the script when we started shooting, where her character would like play piano in this one scene later on in the season. But they work with what they have, so it's like, so if they have someone that plays piano, it's like, oh, we can add that in, we can like, put this great scene where she's playing piano and like it's this great moment, and then and so they do that all the time. So whatever skills you have that just are great, and and then they can use people, they use that, these creators come up with things and ways to, you know they just add it in, they add it into stuff. um yeah, if you speak different languages, anything. So yeah, so keep learning.
Right.
Not just you, like everybody. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, but it's great. Yeah.
The more, the better.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
whenever you feel like you're like bored, or if you're getting anxiety or anxious because you're like, oh, I don't have any auditions this week, or I don't have anything going on, that's the perfect time to be like, oh, cool. All right, well, what can I do right now to kind of like fill my plate? Like what can I do to kind of like to get the ball rolling? Um, yeah, and then just learn, and then I don't know. It's just I don't know. Like I'm blown away every time. It's like it's so simple, but I'm always like, it's amazing, like how connected
Yeah.
we all are, how connected everything is. It's like it's crazy. It's not crazy, but it's great. I'm trying not to call it crazy. I'm trying not to call it like bizarre and everything, because it's more normal than what I think it is.
Right.
So any of that stuff, any job experiences, like bartending. And I remember I was bartending and stuff, but that ended up helping me out because there was like some roles like for like like maybe like a one liner or a two liner and something, and they needed a bartender, and it's like it's kind of silly, but like at the end of the day, it's like sometimes you can like tell when somebody's doing something on screen when they're like have these props, and it's just like that's not real, like that person doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, like so like bartending is like like to make that look realistic, or like to make you like while you're doing it, it's like if they end up finding somebody who is a real bartender, it's in their life at some point, that's just a bonus. It's just it makes the story that much better and that much more believable.
Exactly.
So yeah, so every experience you have is always going towards the greater overall product or overall good, so to speak, of your career, which is why I love this. I love what we do. Is like everything I do is kind of influencing it. It's not
Hmm.
something that I just like show up from 8 to 5 and then it's like it's kind of I just leave it there. It's like whatever I'm doing in my own life is going to influence my career in one way or another. And I'm going to be able to bring all my life experience to each project or future projects. It's like, oh yeah, it's like I used to ride horses when I was a kid, and now here I am like doing this western where I'm riding horses. I don't know, it's fun, it's exciting.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I know your dad was like, I'm assuming they were high school wrestlers and stuff, and probably
Yeah.
college too. But like I just pictured when you first said that, I pictured like the WWF wrestlers, like like, well, we're pretty popular here. I got my dad, he's Hacksaw Ridge over there, and but like yeah, I just pictured like this like crazy giant like professional wrestler guy.
When he did wrestle in school, he did it for a while, I think, in college, but then my parents were high school sweethearts. So
Oh,
um
nice.
yeah, so there was one time where he was driving back to school and they ended up getting in a car crash.
Oh fuck.
And that kind of pretty much ended his wrestling career, and
Oh
they
no.
took away his scholarship. So once yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Talk about
So
a hardship. Yeah.
yeah, seriously. But then here I am now.
Yeah.
20 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, that's yeah.
you
That's
know,
I mean, that's the other thing. It's like there's always so many like curveballs that we all experience in the life, that we go through, and that's okay. Yeah, it's always okay to kind of change and to keep adapting and to kind of go with the flow, because a lot of times, at least, yeah, and I'm sure your dad is the same way, but like a lot of times I've experienced when something doesn't work out and I was like no, but I needed that, or like I really wanted that, like that was the thing that it would have made me like better, like I like that was mine, and it actually ends up like something else pops up that's actually like better than I could have ever imagined it. You know what I mean? It's cliche, but it's true. um that also gives me a great sense of peace whenever I'm like anxious or I get anxiety and stuff. I'm always like, no, 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 like there's so many things happening right now that are out of my control that are like working out for the best, you know, and I don't see it right now because I'm so focused on this one thing that I really want. But a lot of times there's something even better that's around the corner. So maybe missing this opportunity actually, or not getting this opportunity actually paved the way for this other great opportunity that comes in, you know.
Right.
That's even more valuable to me or more important to me than I could have realized, you know. So yeah,
Exactly.
I don't know. It's all good. Yeah, it's all at the end of the day. That's the more I realize it's like everything's always working out for the best if we can kind of like get out of our own way a lot of the time, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I don't know, and we see it kind of now too, like with everything that's going on, is like there's this like stranglehold, you know, like no pun intended, but like of this system, right, that we have in this country. And it's like people don't want to change, and people like, and anytime you mention that there might be something wrong with the system, it's like there's like all this, you know, animosity and this kind of like, you know, fighting back. And like, but
Yeah.
it's like if we were to just kind of like look at it and like and just kind of adapt and move and go with the flow and just open up, you know, we would change things. You know, there would be like policy changes, and things would change for the better. But it's hard because, you know, it's people in their own experiences are just like, so like, no, this is how it is, and this is how it's always been, and this is how it needs to be, and this is, you know, this is like, you know, this is what's best because this is my experience. And a lot of times it's like, no, just like let go, be open, trust that everything, you know, is going to be okay if, like, you know, if things change. um and yeah, and then things end up being better. But it's so hard to see, you know, it's like so hard to see when we're stuck in our own like little experience, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, like, do you have any brothers or sisters?
No, I'm an only child.
Oh, me too. Yeah, half
Only
half.
child gang. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. You know, that's funny. I wish I had brothers and sisters. My parents kind of met later in life. They were the opposites of high school sweethearts. They were like, they met in their like in their 30s.
Oh, wow.
And then they had me when they were like, my mom was 39 and my dad was 41 when they had me. So they were just kind of like, yeah, one and done. You know, yeah, yeah,
Now we're done, just you.
yeah, yeah. They're like, it's late. Yeah. I mean, I wish I could, you know, I wish I had siblings, but I got lucky because my neighbors were all around my age and we got along like really well. We were all best friends, so it was kind of like
Nice.
having siblings, but not having to, you know, if we were ever fighting or arguing, we didn't have to like, you know, we could just go back home. You know, we could just be like, all right, well, fuck you, and, yeah, well, fine, well, fuck you, and then like the next day, be like, oh, I'm sorry, man, you know, like, oh, need me, I love you, man, you know? But yeah, so it was cool. But yeah, but I definitely wish I had siblings.
Yeah.
Next life.
I always kind of
Next
wanted an
life.
older brother.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah. I don't
but
know.
now
You
I'm
know,
okay with being an only child.
yeah, yeah. It's like there's a lot of I mean, I mean, for good reason too. There's like a lot of stereotypes for only children and stuff, and but I think that's a great opportunity too for only children, like, you know, for us, for instance, to kind of to experience that and to be like, oh wow, yeah, like I'm looking at you like through my eyes. So it's like you're in my world or you're in my, but then it's like you're looking at me through your eyes. So I'm in your world or your experience. But then like we're looking at each other. So like it's our experience. So it's like this is all shared. Like everybody's literally in this, like, you know, not, it's like cliche, it's like we're all in this together. It's like it's true, like we're all
Right.
literally, you know, experiencing this together. So that's where that was huge for me. I didn't learn that till like high school, or like, you know, I feel like, or maybe like, yeah, like late teens or something, where I was like, oh, I was like, this is all just because everything was like, you know, in my experience, you know, it was like, you know, the like, oh, poor me being an only child. But like, but it was like, but that was like my reality was like, oh, everything was like, it was subconscious, you know what I mean? I wasn't even
Mhm.
aware of it. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, everything's like I'm not that I'm like the god or something, but it was almost like everything was relative to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then once I realized, I was like, oh no, like I'm relative to everything else. You know, like it's
Yeah.
and then that was like life changing, and that was you know, but that was and I'm grateful for that. You know, I'm glad that I had that experience. But I still do wish I would have had siblings. But I think that that's also a helpful thing with people that have siblings. Like that's something that they kind of get to learn at a young age. Um, you know, it's like, oh, I don't have all the attention all the time, or like, oh, I can't, like these, I have to share these toys, or I have to share this thing or this that thing. You know, that's something that
Right.
yeah, that just should probably be stressed or taught more to only children at a young age, because it's something that they're not even aware of. You know what I mean? It's just something that like they just don't experience until they experience it, and then once they do, it's like the world is just like flipped. You know, it's like whoa, oh fuck, and
Right.
yeah, but it's great. You know, it's really great. And some people, and I'm just glad it happened to me at somewhat of a young age, because I mean I've seen people in life that are like fully grown adults and they're still kind of living that way. You know, and it's like
Yeah.
what the fuck, you know? Like yeah,
No, I
there's a
agree
lot of
with
people
you.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so who knows? But yeah, that's another conversation for another day. You
Yep.
know. Yeah.
For another time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah, we could start like an only child podcast. Like with like an only child support group. Yeah, yeah. That's so funny. Like those poor only children, those poor kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, well, that's exciting. You're at this like I don't think I don't think precipice is the right word, but maybe it is the right word. You know, you're at this like really excited. Like I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. Like right now is like it's such a great time, you know, as we're talking about, is like just for like reflection and you know just like examining and analyzing everything, and I don't know. That's why it's like I'm really interested to see how you know these high school kids all turn out after all this, because I know when I was graduating high school, like I didn't know what the fuck, I don't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I was you know trying to do, and I think now is maybe a good time for all these kids to just to kind of be like sitting around and like thinking like, oh, what do I really want to do? You know, like what's happening in my reality or my like life right now that I want to do or that I want to change or that I want to focus on, and what's happening in the world where I can kind of help out or be a part of or change something or join something. You know,
Hmm.
yes, I don't know. I think it's I don't know. It's a really interesting time, but yeah. Yeah, you got a lot of things. And what sucks though is you can't really be like saving up money and working right now. You know what I mean? Like nobody can really. That's the one thing that sucks is like you need
Yeah.
money to move to a city to pursue a career to do all these things, and you can't really be making that money right now or saving up that money just because there's nothing. Everything's closed. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I just started, well, because when I was in New York, I had a job up on like 50th Street up by like Radio City Music Hall at a restaurant.
Hmm.
And I would work overnight shifts from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Oh
Uh,
God.
yeah. But hey, I was making money and I made
Yeah.
plus tips. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I loved it. And now like I had like nearly 3 months off. Like I focused on school once I came home. It's not like I really had like a chance to even really find a job at that time anyways.
Right.
So I just recently
Yeah.
started working again like a week ago. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Back home, back in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, save up money if you're not paying rent right now. Like that was huge for me. I mean, that's another thing I would recommend is like save up. The more money you save up, the more comfortable you'll probably be wherever you end up moving to, you know?
Mhm.
And like another good thing is to build some credit and to get a credit card and to only use it, you know, for you know, to only use it when you can pay it off and for emergencies or something, you know, or
Right.
like essential necessary things. And because that was huge for me because like I saved up like I think like $3,000 of like straight up just money that I had, you know, in hand, so to speak. and then I got a credit card which gave me like another $2,000 or something like that at the time. So that was like a cool cushion, like a really nice like emergency cushion if I ever was like not making any money or running low on money while I was out there.
Mhm.
And but then the only problem is you have to be really responsible because what, like, it's like, fuck it, like I'm gonna buy a drink tonight at this bar, and yeah, I'm gonna buy that person a shot, like, oh, it's my friend's birthday, I'm gonna buy them a drink, and next thing you know, it's like you start using the credit card, or at least I started using the credit card for things that weren't necessary, for things that weren't, gas or food or any of these things, and then next thing you know, the credit card's maxed out, and rather than having like a $2,000 cushion, it's now a $2,000 hole,
Right.
that like I have to climb out of, and it sounds really frustrating. And learning how credit cards work. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
I
yeah,
definitely need to
so
do that because I need to build my credit so I can pay my
yeah,
student loans.
yeah. Well,
So,
the student loans is tough too. I remember I kept doing that whole grace period thing. I would always like, there were months when I could pay it off, and that was great, and there was months when I could pay a little bit more than what I actually owed, than the payment was due, and like that was great. But then there was months when I was like, I can't afford this. So like, you do the grace period thing or the forbearance or any of that stuff. And like, I would do that. Like I did that a lot. Like I just kept kind of doing it over, like, every now and then. And then I also kind of realized it's like, it's literally like running on a hamster wheel. It sucks. Like, it's like they set it up so that it's like, even if I pay, say my payment's $200, and I'm like, you know what, I have a little extra money, I'll pay $250, thinking that that's going to like overall help out in the long run. And in the long run, the interest rate, like with the interest and everything, it ends up like just eating that money anyway. So it's kind of like, it's literally like every minimum payment, every time I would do the minimum payment, I was taking a chunk out of it. Like it's better than nothing, but at the end of the day, it was kind of like, it's barely better than nothing, you know what I mean, like doing the minimum payment. So
right.
sometimes it's almost better, like if you can't afford it, just do a forbearance, have that grace period, and then do like one lump sum payment, like save up like $1,000 just for that payment, and then like boom, knock out $1,000 of it. Which I did, which I never did, but looking back at it, like I wish I would have like maybe done some of that, because I'm sure that I wasted like, hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, in just those minimum payments. You know what I mean? Like $50 here, $20 there, $50 there, $100 there. You know what I mean? It was kind of like,
And that's kind of
it's
crazy
fucked
because
up.
you would think that would help it,
Yeah,
like pay it
exactly.
off
Yeah.
a little faster. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole scam of the whole thing. That's why it's like everybody's like, that like student loans are bullshit, and it's like, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I get it. It's great that we have this opportunity to get loaned money and then to pay it off. But there, I really think there should not be any interest on student loans.
Oh, I agree
It's
100%.
yeah, it's terrible how that's like a profit business for those loan, people that are giving out the loans, and those companies, and those banks and stuff. It's crazy. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really crazy.
And
It's
it's really
it's
hard because a lot of people struggle to pay that stuff off. I have family that are still
mhm.
paying theirs off, and they
Yeah,
finished school like before I was even born. So it's
yeah,
crazy what you have
it's
to pay
insane.
for that.
Yeah, it's insane. You end up like taking out like a $40,000 loan, and then at the end of the day, after it's all said and done, after everything's paid back, if you were to like do the math, it's like I ended up paying $56,000 rather than the $40,000 that they loaned me in the beginning. You know what I mean? It's like, and not me. That's just an example, but like with the interest, and like say however long it takes to pay it back and everything, it's like, yeah, we end up paying back more money than we took out in the first place.
Right.
And that's not, I don't know, it's not right. It just seems like it's like, that's just kind of, that's not right. You know what I mean? It's like, there's something wrong there. There's like something screwed up. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's all. I mean, you just gotta figure it out, and figure out what works best for you, and what you can afford, and how you can get the money together and save, and use it properly and budget and all that. And it's all a great learning experience.
Right.
So yeah, so you'll figure all that out. But yeah, but I mean, but it's frustrating at times, and it's scary at times. But at the end of the day, just keep breathing, and just be like, it's all good. You'll
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah. Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about in particular?
Well, um, How long have you been doing this? Like, did you do theater in high school, or did you kind of just decide, like, when you were going to college, this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I didn't do theater in high school, but I did like student films in high school. I did like uh like I took a TV media class, and I did like in that class we did the morning news for the school, and then we would also create these little tiny short films and little projects which were fun.
Mhm.
And I had an awesome English teacher who I did not like writing book reports and writing essays and stuff. And it was just hard for me. I don't know. And then so she was like, all right, well, look, if you how about instead of writing a book report, like, you read the book and then create a short film about it, or recreate it like as a movie or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'll do that. So then, for whenever we had a book report due, like me and my friends would just create a movie and like reenact the book, like our interpretation of it, which was really fun. So that was kind of like my first kind of like film experience, so to speak, and that was in high school. But I never looked at it like a career. I never was like, oh, this is something that I want to do as a career. It was more like, oh, this is just kind of fun, and I enjoy doing it. And then it wasn't until college when I kind of was like, I realized I didn't want to be a teacher, because I was like, I can't handle that responsibility of all these kids, and it's just a just a huge responsibility. I didn't want to do that.
Right.
So then I changed my major to sport management, and then at that time I was like not going to class, and I didn't really care about it. And so I kind of like it hit me one day. I was just kind of like, this is like, why am I spending, why, like, we're just talking about student loans. I was like, why am I accumulating all this debt? Why am I paying all this money for something that I really don't care about? Obviously, like, if I cared about it, I would be going to class, and I would be like super excited to learn the material, and I would be really passionate and excited about it. And I'm not. So why am I just kind of going with the you know just kind of just doing it? And I was like, I want to do something that I'm passionate about, that I'm excited about, that I want to like, that I don't that doesn't feel like a job or homework.
Right.
um and so then I kind of had this like realization. And and I mean, I don't want to just attribute it to to drugs or whatever. Like it's like I was like on mushrooms at the time. I was like, I had eaten these mushrooms, and I was like kind of like having this like whoa, like having all these realizations and like kind of like experiences. But then it hit me. I was like, I should do something that I enjoy, that I'm excited about, that I want to do. And so at the time it was like, well, I'd love to be an athlete, or I'd love to play sports, but it was kind of like, it wasn't realistic. I was like, there's no way I could do this as a profession. You know what I mean? I can't compete at a level, and make a career out of it. I just didn't have that level of commitment for that. But then I was like, what else do I enjoy? And at the time, I was taking an acting class with friends at school, like a theater acting class, and I would learn the lines, and I would show up. And I mean, I don't know if I was any good, but I was having fun doing it, and I would look forward to that class like every week. I would look forward to it, and I was like, oh, that's something that I feel like I should try at least. So I was like, all right, I'll audition for the program. If I get in, I'll work hard, and I'll put everything, full steam ahead. And if I don't, then I'm gonna drop out. Basically, I was like, if I don't get into the program, then I need to stop wasting mine and my parents' money, and I need to figure out what I want to do with my life. So,
Right.
um, yeah, so that's when I kind of made the decision. Was like in college, like halfway through. Uh, so I went to a 4-year school, but I ended up switching over like halfway through. So I ended up kind of getting that kind of somewhat conservatory experience, because it was only like 2 years, or like, well, 2.5 years, because I had to make up a couple classes. But
Right.
yeah, yeah. So but that was when it was in college when I really kind of went along to it. But yeah, I mean, but I don't know. It's funny because it's one of those things too where, and you were probably the same way. It's like, I think it's just kids in general. It's like, as a kid you get to play and you use your imagination, and we create stories, or we tell stories, or we recreate stories that we've been told or that we've seen. And so I feel like, in a way, I feel like I've kind of been doing it my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've kind of been doing this whole thing my whole life, but I didn't really realize till college that it was like, oh, this is something that, like, I would like to do as a career, as something. So yeah, so I guess kind of that's the long story longer of it, the the long of it, yeah. But yeah, what about you? Did you do theater in high school or any of that?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I started in middle school. I actually did more behind the scenes for a little bit. I knew like I always wanted to do like directing and like writing, but I
Mhm.
didn't really get like the acting part until my junior year of high school. And then once I started doing that, like that's when I knew like this is a career I wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
And I would tell my friends about it, and there was a couple who I'm not friends with anymore now, but they would be like, oh, so like you think you're gonna go and be an actor? I'm like, yes, I am. I said, when you
Yeah.
love it, when you love something and you're passionate about it, like
Yeah, why not?
that's that you are the one that can make it happen. So yeah, I am.
Mhm.
And they
Yeah.
were just
Yeah.
I don't know if they meant it as a discouraging thing, but like of course like
Yeah.
anybody would take it that way. So it just kind of
Mhm.
took me back at some people's
Yeah.
responses about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, here
But
I
that
am. I
but
finished acting school.
yeah, no, that's amazing. But it's like also I had a similar experience in my hometown where well, multiple times. Like first in college when I changed my major, like a lot of my friends were like, yeah, I specifically remember one guy was like, "Oh, okay, Jamie Foxx," and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "What are you?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna change your name too? You're gonna like change your name and be this actor?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe, but like I wasn't planning on it. Like I don't get it. Like where's it? Like in my head, I was like, where's this kind of coming from?" And what it is people it, anybody like when people aren't secure in their own dreams or their own passions or anything, then it's like then it's easy to like then they want to like attack other people, or like if they've been told that is what I realized. Because then there was another time when I was in my hometown, I was working at the local inn, bartending down there, saving money to move to LA. And like word had kind of gotten around because it's a small town, you know what I mean, like everybody knows everybody. And so like people were like, yeah, did you hear about Alex, he changed his major, he's an actor now, because I was more of like a jock and like like a just whatever. I was like the opposite of an actor, I guess, growing up. And then so the people that then I remember I had a friend from high school, and she came in and she at the bar, and then she was like, wait, you're gonna move to LA, you're gonna move to Hollywood, you're gonna like go do all that? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean that's the plan, like, that's like that's what I'm gonna do. And then she was like you're never gonna make it. She was like, what do you mean, like why like that's like crazy, like that's like basically she was just like you're an idiot, you know what I mean? And I was kind of like it hurts, you know what I mean? It's discouraging, but at the
Yeah,
same time, if you can take that like you're doing, and like you just kind of like turn it into fuel, and it's like a reminder, not like a traumatic thing where it's like where you freeze up and you have like you're just like laying there like thinking about it, like I can't believe she said that. But like if you take it, it's just like like you use it as like that, like whenever you're kind of like I don't know, just like whenever, like pat yourself on the back whenever you're doing these things. When it's like, oh, I'm working 8 hours, 10 hours, I'm working overnight, I'm working my butt off, and then I get to go try to like do this the next day. It's like pat yourself on the back, like you're doing it. You're putting down your roots. You know what I mean? You're building that foundation to go off of, and you're working hard. You're earning it.
right.
And for me, so like it was just a constant reminder. I would always kind of like think about it whenever I was like working, and I was and it would just excite me. I was like, yeah, I was like, fuck yeah. Like it wasn't like like, oh well, fuck you or screw you for how dare you say that. It was more of like a no, like yeah, like I feel I kind of almost it led me to more of like sympathy for that person, because I was like, oh, someone must have told her when she expressed her dream or that she wanted to do something. Someone must have been like, that's no, you're crazy for doing that, that's you're and like put her down and discouraged her. And not necessarily like acting, it could have been anything, any kind of dream, whatever they had. Same thing with probably your friends. It's like there there's probably this level of insecurity where they didn't think that they could go out and try to achieve something, whether or not because they weren't supported when they expressed it to someone else, or whether it was just their own personal like doubts that was leading, but then that caused them to like put that on you
Right.
and to attack you with it, which is unfortunate. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it sucks, but it's like, yeah, the
Yeah.
more you can just trust yourself, trust your intuition and your your own guiding system, where it's like no, like I want to do this, I'm gonna go for it. And then you might get there and you might be like, oh, actually, you know what, I don't want to do this. Or along the way, you might be like, oh, actually, you know what, I want to go there, and then you end up going there and do that. And it's like that's fine too. It's completely fine. You know, just because right now in this moment you say you want to go over there, you might change your mind, and that's fine. But in the meantime, you know, just keep doing what you're doing and just go for it. You know, try it, which is what you're doing. And that's literally half of it, at least half of it. It's probably like 70% of it, I think, in anything, not even just this industry, like in life. It's like, you know, my dad, it's funny, my dad always said, like, just show up. Like, half of it's just showing up. You know what I mean? Like with like for
Yeah.
school, because I used to hate going to school, and he was just like, all you got to do is just show up and sit in the classroom. You don't have to, like, you know, you can still get by and just pass, like just by showing up and just like listening and writing down a couple things every now and then. He's like, you know, if you don't want to do it, you know, just that's fine. But half of everything in life is just kind of showing up, and a lot of people, unfortunately, I mean, I don't even want to say a lot of people, because hopefully it's not that way, and I don't want it to be that way. But it's like there's some people out there that they're so scared to show up, or they've been so discouraged in trying to show up from their family or from their friends or from whoever, that's all that they know. So then they'll push
Mhm.
that on to other. They just project that onto other people. But yeah, but like you said, you're fucking doing it, and it's like, and it's not to be like, haha, like fuck you, like I'm doing it, but it's just to be like, look, I'm sure that those people will look at you and be like, wow, like I was wrong, you know, like I was, you know,
Right.
like I, or maybe they reach out and they apologize and they say, you know, like, hey, like that's my bad, I didn't mean to say that. And sometimes they're not even aware of it. Sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes they just kind of say it and they don't know what they're saying. They're just kind of like projecting their own bullshit, and maybe they never learn from it and they never realize it. And then like you might see them later in life and it's just they're not even thinking about it, you know.
Right.
And then
Life's
at the end of the
literally
day,
just about learning and growing every day.
that's
So
that's all it is. It's all it is every day. And it's like, all right. And then like the more we can do that, the more we can all just be like, oh wow, we're all connected and we're all going through the same experience, just different, you know, same shit, different person, you know.
yeah.
So yeah, but that's great. You know, that's yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah, I'm having like all this nostalgia, like thinking back to like when I was your age, going through all that stuff. It was really fun. Yeah. I mean, it was tough too. That there was like a lot of like, oh man, the first time when I moved to LA, that year was the loneliest year of my life. I knew one person, and she worked like a maniac. She was like such a driven, like hard worker, and she was working in the music industry, and she was like I would see her maybe like for like 10 minutes every day or 20 minutes when she came home, and she would just like go to bed. She would work like 14-hour days, 15-hour days, like, you know,
Wow.
and then sometimes she'd come home and just work more. Um, yeah. And so I didn't know anybody. So like the whole, that first year was just lonely. I just remember there was multiple times when I was like, just like laying in bed, just like basically crying myself to sleep, just being like, I miss my friends and I miss home and blah, 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 and like, you know, and just and then but
Yeah.
then I'd be like, no, but then I'd get like invigorated with like this sense of like purpose, because I was like, no, I'm out here, I'm pursuing my dreams. Like home is always going to be there. You know what I mean? Like home is
Right.
always, I can always go home whenever, like at the end of the day. So why not right now just try to see what happens, you know, try to pursue, you know, this passion or this dream. And yeah, and then it was great. And then, you know, you end up meeting people, you end up building a community and growing with other people that are like-minded and that are excited and from a whole different part of the country, or different part of the world even too, you know what I mean? Like it's like, you know, you're going to meet amazing people along the way, and you know, they become friends and family and home away from home, and it's great. It's a really exciting time. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous because enjoy it, because that, you know, it's like it's enjoy it, you know. It's like enjoy the, not even the down times, like the hard times, like enjoy those challenging moments, the challenging times, enjoy those, because
Right.
like that's something that you only get to experience once. I mean, you're gonna have other challenging times in life, but specifically like these, like, you know, these beginning years or whatever, like those, like really relish in those moments, and I don't know. I mean, you got to do what you want. You know, you got to do what you want to do, and do you. But like for me, like when I was working at those restaurant gigs and bussing tables at like 3 a.m. and like, you know, exhausted, just looking around and seeing people and like, just being like, fuck, like, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not acting right now. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't acting. Like, I'm busting my butt, like we're doing this bullshit, cleaning up vomit like under this bar, like doing stuff like that. And it was like, but then it was like, no, like, this is exciting. I'm in LA or like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm actually like, I'm pursuing my dream and like, and I'm going to look back on this and be glad that I like kind of like, earned it, that I was like working my butt off. And so, yeah, so do things that like 10 years from now, you're going to look back at and be proud of, you know what I mean? So that's really also what it comes down to, I think, is like, if you feel like, cause that's what this, we're talking about this only child thing. It's like, that's another huge stereotype. They're like all only children are like kind of entitled and, they kind of, everything's handed to them and they're spoon fed and everything. And it's like, you can flip that, you can earn it.
Exactly.
You can, yeah. And so go out and work your butt off and work your tail off and earn it and be humble and, and just grow. And that's sometimes I don't know, that's just a challenge in itself. You know what I mean? That's like, that's something that's just super challenging and that people will respect, or at least you can respect yourself for doing, at the end of the day. So,
Right.
and that's all that matters in a lot of ways. It's just, it doesn't matter what other people think. So it's just kind of like, you just got to do you and do something to make yourself, be proud of what you're doing and do stuff that you'll look back on and be proud of when you're old and gray.
Yep. I don't want them to
Yeah.
help me. Like, I want to be able to do it by myself. But
Yeah.
it's also like, it's hard. So at least I have their support and like their help. And I love that because, yeah.
That's like invaluable. That's like priceless. That's like worth more than gold. Like, that's like amazing that you have two parents that love you and support you and like, unconditionally are there for you, because a lot of people don't have that. And that's something that like yeah, that's just something that just always cherish and appreciate. But like you said, like, but also, at the same time, just you know make your own way, like just work your butt off, and then just, yeah, and put, put all that hard work, because it pays off in the end. It's like it makes you a better person, a more well-rounded person. So,
Oh, for sure.
well, I should wrap it up. It's like almost like 3 over here, and I gotta kind of get my day started. I feel like, all this talk
I
about
got you.
working hard, and I'm a bum. Yeah, it was great talking to you. Great meeting
Yeah,
you.
you too. I'm so happy you
Yeah.
got to do this. Thank you again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll see you in one of those cities if you end up going to New York or LA or something.
Hopefully, yeah. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed. Yep.
yeah. All right. Well,
All
best
right.
of luck,
Well,
and I'll talk to you.
yeah, you too. Thanks, Alex. Bye.
All right. Bye.